Hey guys, really cool that you clicked on this video again. Today is a bit of a different kind of episode than what you're used to from me or from us. Today I'm honestly going to give you my opinion about the Yamaha T-Max, which I've owned for about 4 months now and have ridden for 3,500 kilometers. Interested? Stay tuned. Some interesting points are coming. Before listing the downsides, you should know which model I have. Well, this is the T-Max 530 DX model from 2018. DX, of course, stands for the more luxurious model, and I specifically chose this one because of all the features it has. But I'll get to that in a moment. So, this doesn't become a whining video for you guys. I'm of course going to tell you 10 positives as well as 10 negatives. Negative point 1, and for me this is a big issue. It only has a 15-liter gas tank. On the forum, people claim it can reach 350 kilometers, but that's not true. Not for me, since my T-Max is tuned, as you know. At most, I get 200 to 210 kilometers on a full tank. Normally, that would be 250 kilometers on a full tank. So if you don't like stopping at the gas station often, then the T-Max is a no-go for you. Second downside, I'm pretty short. Well, short, I'm about 175. I really like sitting at the tip of my seat, but that's not possible with the T-Max 530. With the new model, you can't sit at the tip because that's where your seat controls are. If you sit on that, it's really hard, and that's really annoying. And if you sit on the motorcycle for more than an hour, yeah, your butt will start to hurt quite a bit. Although this is set up as a touring motorcycle, I still find the seat quite hard. Point 3. What has really bothered me lately, especially in high temperatures, are the sticky grips. Well, that's really exhausting, and unfortunately there's heated grips installed, so I don't know if I can replace them. But that's definitely something I'm going to look into. Maybe by now I sound a bit like a complainer, but we're moving on to point 4. I very often hit the center stand. Check this out for a moment. As you can see, it's already quite worn or ground down, possibly by the previous owner. But despite that, I still hit it. And the other side, yeah, that's also completely worn down. So yeah, that's definitely an irritation point. Point 5 to be exact. My engine is tuned, which is why I have to turn off my traction control system since it can activate at any time. Almost whenever I go full throttle and make a slight turn and want to accelerate out of it, it already kicks in, and that means it closes my throttle. It basically stalls for a moment, and while I try to accelerate, it hiccups. That's really annoying. So I'm basically forced to turn off my traction control system every time, which actually prevents your bike from slipping when accelerating. And yeah, so you lose a bit of safety. But if you want to ride a tuned bike like this, maybe that's just part of it, so I shouldn't complain, though it's a definite downside. Just to give you a little bit of insight into what kind of bike I came from. Before I bought the T-Max, I came from a Kawasaki version 650cc. That's quite a big touring bike. And in about 2.5 years, yeah, at most 3 years, I rode about 35,000 kilometers on it. I can say that I'm pretty experienced with it, and I've ridden in all kinds of weather, from -10 to +35 degrees. You could say I always rode the motorcycle. Of course, always super safe with motorcycle gear. Now you know what my old motorcycle was and the basis for my comparison, since I've only had this one for 4 months, as I said. It's a completely different motorcycle, but it's my dream bike. So the downsides that I'm telling you about, they're important for you to know, but I'm still incredibly happy with the bike. So my old Kawasaki, which I sold to be able to buy this bike, didn't have ABS. That's why I'm now at point 6. ABS cannot be turned off on a T-Max. They probably did that for safety reasons. But what I sometimes notice is that if you squeeze your brakes fully at a low speed, I find that very annoying because sometimes my braking distance is longer because of it, while actually with a little skid, I would come to a stop sooner. That's what made it disappointing. It's a shame, but I have to accept it and move on. Point 7. Let's discuss maintenance. The dealer says that the Vesnar on the back needs to be replaced every 20,000 kilometers. Well, my motorcycle has done a total of 15,000 kilometers, and it already needs to be replaced. Not because it's worn out, but because a small stone got between my sprocket and my Vesnar. And because of that, a hole appeared in my Vesnar, so my Vesnar needs to be replaced. It's actually quite an expensive and pricey little thing, that Vesnar. It's 400 euros excluding installation, so with installation you're looking at about 460 euros, I think. And yeah, that makes a Vesnar pretty expensive. It can happen at any moment that a little stone gets in between. Whether you've worn out that Vesnar after 1,000 kilometers, or 5,000, or in my case 15,000. So yeah, it's already been used quite a lot. If a little stone gets in there, there's a good chance it needs to be replaced. That's what happened to me, it happened. Now we arrive at point 8. As you already know, there's quite a big difference in kilometers per hour between the speedometer and the global positioning system speed. For example, my speedometer shows 110 kilometers per hour. On the T-Max, that's actually, but on global positioning system, it's only 100 kilometers per hour. So, for example, it's almost 89 kilometers per hour, but on the speedometer, it's actually 80 kilometers per hour. If you start driving faster, the difference gets bigger and bigger. So if I'm driving about 165 at the motorcycle's top speed, what's the actual speed on the global positioning system? So there's a big difference between the actual kilometers and the kilometers shown by the motorcycle. So don't be fooled by, oh, I drove 160 kilometers per hour, because yeah, it's actually quite different. That brings us to point 9 and point 10. Point 9 is, I live in Amsterdam and the T-Max is quite prone to theft, so definitely be alert about that. And point 10, all risk insurance for the T-Max motorcycles is extremely expensive. They're over 200 euros, so all risk is around 200 euros, but Wettelijke and Sprakelijkheid Casco is just 40 euros. Well, I call that a difference. And is that also a downside in some way? We've covered all 10 T-Max downsides, but I'm still very enthusiastic. Yes, it's still my dream bike. Now let's discuss the 10 advantages. Why do I love this T-Max so much? First, the first advantage, the looks of a T-Max. It's just so cool, especially this model. I think this model looks absolutely amazing, just the way it turned out.
2018 model?
And besides that, the sound. The T-Max has a super recognizable sound. Everyone turns to look even when you see it, and that really makes it unique. Of course, it's the drive system. Its design makes the T-Max audible from far away. And everyone will turn their heads to see you coming. So that's point 1. Point 2, the reason I'm so hyped about my T-Max is that I bought the DX. Well, the DX actually stands for the more luxurious model of a T-Max, because you also have it in an SX, but the SX doesn't have all the options that the DX does. First, let's start with cruise control. Well, my bike comes with cruise control from the factory. By pressing this button, a light will come on the dashboard, and then your cruise control is activated. With those two buttons, you can turn it on and no longer need the throttle. You can lean back completely without touching the steering wheel. This isn't something you should try at home, but it's possible. In addition, it has heated handles, I have to say, which is really cool from the factory. There's a little logo that shows it, and a heated seat, which is also really cool. And besides that, I have a TomTom, which of course you can put anywhere. But I'm really happy that I have it, because navigating on a motorcycle is just really awesome. In addition, it has an adjustable windshield, which can be set to different heights. So this way, you can just sit comfortably out of the wind on the highway. But when you enter the city, you lower it and then you get a bit more wind in your face. I think it's really nice. Previously, I had to wear a balaclava under my helmet too. I have a Rove Boxer, a well-known helmet with those red flaps. It's also known for being noisy inside the helmet. So much wind comes in on the highway that I go deaf since I ride there a lot. But because I have an adjustable windscreen, I don't need that. I don't need a balaclava, no more earplugs in my ears. I just find it so relaxing to ride that you just put on a helmet and you're good to go. Point 3. It's incredibly easy to tune and upgrade. This one has also been upgraded as I mentioned before. Thanks to our friends at the Amsterdam Scooter Company. Here you have them. They are real specialists in T-Max work, and of course they also tuned up my scooter. I'm really happy with it. It definitely makes it sportier. Originally, it just wasn't exciting enough for me. And now that it's tuned, it's a lot more fun to ride. That's something you should know. It really rides much better when it's tuned. I find it much more challenging and adventurous. I'm gonna sum up points 4 and 5 together now, because they really do belong together. Because of the large seat of the motorcycle, it's a really nice 2-seater, and it also makes it super comfortable. Especially with a backrest, you can fold out footrests here, and you actually sit really comfortably with 2 people on this motorcycle. And of course, it has a really large buddy seat. Of course, you have to turn on the ignition first. I have quite a mess in my buddy seat, don't mind that, but because it actually has so much space, you can always fit everything in it. And you can also fit a helmet in it, as long as you don't have a lock inside. So those are all little things that really make life a lot easier. So if you're going to the city, you can just park your T-Max, put your helmet inside, lock it up, and you're good to go. Point 6 of the advantages. Since it's tuned, I find it a challenging bike. It's nice and sporty, but it can also cruise comfortably because it has a mode button. And when you use the mode button, it can be in both a slow mode and a fast mode. That's what I call it. So you can also cruise very comfortably with it. It doesn't actually respond so sharply to the throttle, so that actually makes it a really good daily. Both sporty, cruising, challenging, and adventurous all in one. Of course, I've already made a video about the T-Max in the past. You all massively asked, yeah, what other upgrades should come next? That's the Acura PO bike for a T-Max. I haven't installed it myself yet since I think the sound is cool. And you can already hear me coming from a distance. So if I put an Acura on it now, it'll be even louder. I'm not sure if I think that's worth it. Those exhaust systems cost about 12 to 1500 euros, depending on the Akrapovic system you choose. It just got pooped on me right here. I'm still not sure about it. I'm not convinced if I should get that Acura. I'm already happy with the sound. So who knows? Maybe it's still possible in the future, but for now, not yet. Point 7. The bike ride's incredibly familiar and chill, which makes it accessible for everyone. Oh, that's a big plus since my girlfriend can ride it too. It's suitable for both men and women. So it's not a very aggressive bike like only I would be able to ride it, for example. It's easy to keep track of with all the options and buttons you have. So yeah, my wife uses it a lot too. And that's what makes it so incredibly fun. The second to last advantage I have for you today is point 9. There are a lot of parts available for a T-Max, both aftermarket and original, tuning, etc. Everything can really be found for a T-Max online. So everyone can fully customize it to their own taste, if they want. Mine is still pretty original. I think it looks best in its original state. I did add one thing here myself just to make that pulley black, but I thought it was too much chrome. That's all I changed, but I'm happy with how it looks. But like I said, there's so much potential for tuning your T-Max. Check it out online. And yeah, the world is yours. And finally, point 10. I've actually thought about this for a long time. I can't come up with a 10th advantage. Really, I've been sitting here thinking. I just couldn't figure it out. And I do know that if you really want a T-Max, then I would definitely take one for a test ride, because this is definitely one. And you're gonna be very happy with it. The 10 drawbacks that I've listed for you are 10 drawbacks from my perspective, my opinion. I'm extremely happy with that, with the T-Max of course. In about 4 months, I've ridden 3,500 kilometers. And that's why this is an honest review of the bike, of what I think about it. Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments, or do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments as well. Did you enjoy this video? Give it a thumbs up. This isn't a regular episode, but I thought it was important. So you know what the 10 pros and cons of my motorcycle are. And I'm ending this episode on a positive note. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Next time, a new kind of episode, a slightly different kind of episode than this one, of course, because we're going back to our standard routine episodes. So I'll see you then.